Mississippi is the first state to lift a mask mandate. And there's a lot of states that didn't have a mask mandate, but are the ones who put it in. Mississippi has now lifted the mask mandate. But for all that good news, let's understand as the rebel rebellion is rising, as people are now finally catching on to the scam, we still have other issues that are rolling out. You know, I've talked about the money issue, talked about the push to get us into a cashless society. Even though the rebels are winning on a lot of different fronts, we still have the Death Star that's being built, right? Operation Warp Speed Death Star. The vaccines, the 5G, the global ID, the cashless society, the war on the middle class to take people's businesses and jobs if you're not essential, meaning that you're not a Wall Street company, and to put you on communist welfare, universal basic income, the radical communist program that was put out by a couple of Democrats on the fringe last year. That's now become the policy, the bipartisan policy of the Republicans and Democrats. One of the few people to oppose it, Thomas Massie, was eviscerated by President Trump. And by the way, President Trump, he still won the primary. How about that? I'm proud of those people there in his district. He was one of the few people to have the courage to go against the tide and speak out when he saw something wrong. But when we look at what's going on in terms of the money, the cashless society, remember they stopped printing coins this summer. You've seen that. You've seen people begging for coins. You've seen businesses who say, we're not going to take cash at all anymore, which is what they want. You've seen businesses say, well, we're going to just round this up. And, you know, if you insist on paying cash, you're just going to have to round it up to the next dollar because they're not going to give you back any change. And now there's notice that they're stopping the printing of new currency. This was sent to me by a listener. By the way, if you want to send me information, tips, you can send that to davidknightshow@protonmail.com. This was sent by an individual who said his daughter got this from the credit union. It's interesting that the Fed has now stopped printing new bills and sent me a copy of the credit union notice. Federal Reserve has suspended orders for new bills in 2020. During the holidays, members often request newly printed bills to give as gifts. Unfortunately, this holiday season, newly printed bills will not be available due to COVID-19. The Federal Reserve has used this as an excuse. No, they didn't say that. That's me. To suspend new currency ordering for this holiday season. This is a proactive measure to allow the reserve banks to continue to meet daily demand for currency and coins. So how is it that if you stop printing paper currency, which wears out, that's a way to meet daily demand for currency? Oh, yes. The doublethink, the Orwellian doublethink is strong on this one. As a result, the credit union will not be receiving new bills for the winter holiday season, and therefore we will not be able to fulfill requests. We certainly will do our best to accommodate requests for like new or gently used bills. But you might want to, you know, get a cashier's check or take the digital route. Oh, yeah, that's really what you want to do because we're not going to print money anymore. We're not going to print coin. We're not going to do any more coins, and now we're going to stop printing paper currency. Oh, yeah, it's about the virus, isn't it? When you look at what's going on in these tests, just remember, I just started jotting some of these things. I'm going to do an article and put it up on Roundtable Report about this, just a timeline of this stuff. And I started it. You know, look at the money, look at the mask, look at the tests, look at the therapeutics, look at the vaccine timeline. Look at how this has evolved and how it's not evolved, how they stayed on track. Just take a look at the tests, for example. Remember, they didn't have any tests when this all began. Remember, that was a scandal. CDC was caught flat-footed. They don't have any tests. And then you had some private corporations say, we can do that. We can do that real quickly. And they started, there was one company here in Austin. There were like 4 of them. They started saying, send the stuff in. We'll take care of it. They had FDA-approved labs. And the FDA rapidly shut that down. No, you're not going to do that. Not only that, but if they had already accepted the customer's swab, they said, you got to destroy that. They didn't want any testing at the beginning. Why was that? Because without any testing, they could just presume that people had COVID. They could presume they had cases. They could presume that people had died with it, and that's exactly what they did do. They put pressure on people. Any respiratory illness, diagnosis COVID. By late summer, they started having a lot of PCR tests, and they'd proliferated. Now, I've talked about how the PCR tests are baloney. Quantitatively, they can't tell a viral load, and they can't distinguish one coronavirus from another coronavirus. So any flu, any cold, they can call it COVID-19. It's total baloney. And then you had the New York Times say, hey, we got 3 states here that we've looked at. False positive rate for PCR is 90% false positives. Nevertheless, that didn't stop them from rolling this out to universities where they're doing tens of thousands of tests, testing students daily. 5 students tested positive. Nobody hospitalized at any of these universities. 5 students tested positive at the University of North Carolina when we were there last month. They shut the entire university down. And it goes on. It goes on into the White House. The White House now putting out 150 million of these tests. Maybe they were hoisted by their own petard. We'll be right back.